In the shadows of the Estrella Mountains sits a place nicknamed the Jewel of the Desert, a 1-mile D-shaped oval officially known as Phoenix International Raceway. But this weekend, all eyes will be focused on the duel in the desert as the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup heats up.
Phoenix is a unique racetrack. It's a flat racetrack, got one real short turn. There's no corners at Phoenix that's the same. You might get it really good in one corner and then it's terrible in others. Even though it's a mile track, it's run like a short track.
Champions handle pressure and rise to the challenge. That's just what Jimmie Johnson did on Friday by putting his Chevy on the pole, basically making a statement. He said, if you want my title, boys, you're going to have to come and take it. We welcome you live to our ESPN coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup Series final practice. We call it Happy Hour from Phoenix International Raceway. Where are our chasers starting on Sunday? Well, Jimmie Johnson, the points leader, will start on the pole. And oh my, look, Carl Edwards starts way back in 15th spot. Good qualifying effort, though, for Dale Earnhardt Jr., who led a ton of laps here back in April. He will start 5th. He's back in 11th in the point standings. In elections, there are battleground states. In championship chases, there are battleground races, and this is one of them. To explain, here's Mike Massaro.
Doc, as you know, they affectionately refer to the Phoenix area as the Valley of the Sun. Well, if Jimmie Johnson can walk away with a 196-point lead or more, the sun will set on everybody else's title chances. With a 106-point advantage coming into this weekend, Johnson said he's more comfortable this time of year than he's ever been in any other chase. Still, there's something he's very uncomfortable about, the way the team ran a week ago in Texas. He said they were behind and they could never recover. Well, they haven't been behind so far this weekend. They're on the pole. They were third fastest in practice this morning. They're still going to work on that race car so that they can hold off the guy who's chasing them down right now, Shannon.
Mike, if there's one thing that we've learned this season, it is until the checkered flag drops, until a driver is mathematically eliminated, this chase is not over. Now, as you just said, Carl Edwards currently 106 points behind points leader Jimmie Johnson. But just this week, Carl Edwards said he felt that if he had 130 to 140 points separating him and Johnson before the final race in Homestead, he said, I still have a shot at this thing. Now, one thing is for certain, no matter where these drivers are in points behind each other going into the final race in Homestead, the 48 and the 99, they will know where the other one is on the track in practice today and certainly in the race tomorrow. Doc?
Thank you very much, Shannon. Hello, everyone. I'm Jerry Punch, along with Dale Jarrett and Andy Petrie. Glad to have you with us here for NASCAR's final Cup practice at Phoenix. You know, very few racetracks require as much compromise and adjustability as this unique layout. So, guys, here in Happy Hour, what tops your list of questions you need answered?
Well, you got to make your car turn through the center, but you can't compromise the forward bite off the corner too much. You do have to compromise some, but you have to make that car roll through the center, but you really have to launch off of these corners to get down the straightaway. Getting position to turns 1 and 3 is of utmost importance.
And I would be working on fuel mileage after we saw what happened last week and this race in the spring. That seems to be a huge thing. But you can't take advantage of having great fuel mileage if you don't have a good handling race car. So, yeah, handling is number one, but I would certainly be working on fuel mileage.
A lot of different agendas, and here's the guy that Andy was referring to that won it back in April on fuel mileage. He had to slow down, and the irony is, just like Carl Edwards did last week at Texas, he had a 20-second lead but backed it way down and was able to make it to the checkered flag.
Yeah, just like Andy was talking about, if you can get your car to roll and handle pretty well, it's amazing how much your fuel mileage will come up. So this racetrack being as flat as it is, that's what you have to do to really be good here, and so that does help that fuel mileage, and that's how Jimmie Johnson and Chad Canals pulled that off in the spring.
So you use a lot of throttle and brake hard getting into turn 1. Less braking. The sooner you can get off of that brake pedal, especially in turn 1, and get rolling, the faster lap times you can run, and like you said, it saves fuel.
Yeah, pretty long back straightaway here. As you can see, that's a little bit of a dog leg back there. Not as much brake entering 3. You really want the car to roll right here to where you can pick up the throttle and drive it off the corner. You're driving straight towards the wall on the exit of the corner there. Got to be a lot of gas and got to have the rear tires really hooked up.
Let's check on Carl Edwards' progress here at Happy Hour. Again, he starts back in 15th position, and these guys were all talking about adjustability of this car for what's going to happen on race day. How do you adjust these cars or build in that adjustability?
Well, what you can do is if you say you want a certain right rear spring, you can put a spring in there that has a little softer rate. Put some spring rubbers in there to rubber it up to the rate you want. You can also hang spring rubbers on the spring that you can roll in on pit stops. That takes a little extra time, but you can do that. The adjustability is too in the track bar height. You don't want to have it too high, too low, where you don't have any more adjustment one way or the other. So there's a lot of ways that you can make this car adjustable. The easiest thing is obviously tire pressure, but that's why you wouldn't want to start with a tire pressure that you didn't have any room to go one way or the other.
You can see Carl really working the steering wheel there. This is another one of those tracks that the drivers really have to work hard inside the cockpit of these cars.
It's like Kyle Busch has scraped this right side a little bit.
We can show you where he got a little close encounter with the concrete here coming up out of the corner.
This is turn 4, and you see he just chases the car right up to the edge of the groove and into the wall.
Yeah. The exit of these corners, both of them, 2 and 4, you literally drive the car towards the wall, and then you see what can happen. Shannon?
You can see that damage on the side of the car for Kyle Busch. He is not the only one in the garage that has that damage. Greg Biffle, we also saw some on the 31. Now, in the first practice earlier this morning, Kyle Busch said that the 18 car was definitely going in the right direction. Just said he needed a little bit of help off the turns. I think they gave him a little bit too much help off those turns, huh, guys?
Schrader said one time, he said they build these big, beautiful, nice racetracks and they put a wall right up next to it. Never figured that out.
Well, they got their work cut out for him, and Kyle Busch had just qualified the Nationwide car. And you'll be able to see our live flag-to-flag coverage of the NASCAR Nationwide Series at Phoenix, presented by Craftsman, coming up next on ESPN2 tomorrow morning. Join us for NASCAR Now. We'll update what's going to happen all day long, and then live flag-to-flag coverage, 3 o'clock Eastern time on ABC of the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. Then we'll wrap it up with NASCAR Now at 10 o'clock in the evening. Our coverage of NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Happy Hour is being brought to you by Campbell's Chunky, official soup and chili sponsor of the NFL. Look at this 1-mile D-shaped oval, Phoenix International Raceway. And one of the cars, a lot of people in the garage area says Bear watching tomorrow here is the 11 car of Denny Hamlin.
He's fastest right now. I'll tell you, everybody's watching him.
Yeah, that'll get everybody's attention. You go out there and put down a fast lap, but I think that this is just the type of racetrack that Denny Hamlin and Mike Ford seem to excel at. The flatter racetracks, even though it's 1 mile, everybody considers this a short track, and I think that's where Denny Hamlin sees. It looked like he was on the brakes pretty hard right there. Was that the splitter?
And that's still that smoke coming out of the right side exhaust. You see all of the Gibbs cars doing that when they back off the throttle and get in the corner. You see that wisp of smoke coming out of it.
There it is.
I even noticed Ken Schrader's car doing that yesterday. He's a Gibbs-powered car.
Even with all of that smoke, I think he still has a good chance of winning.
I think it's by design. They all do it, so I'm sure they're doing it on purpose. But
serving notice is just going to smoke them here on Sunday. Denny Hamlin's never won at this racetrack. He has a pole here, and he has finished third 3 times, including this past April. Let's go back in the garage area and check on the progress of the 99 car. Mike?
And Carl Edwards back in. He told me before this practice began they're going to pretty much concentrate on just fine-tuning. They spent much of the morning practice trying to get the balance even through the corners. Told me they threw a ton of things at it. Track bar, air pressure, springs. Well, right now this fine-tuning, what it basically encounters, well, you can see they're working on rear springs. Also left side camber on that race car. They also were working on front shocks. But as he says, just fine-tuning, trying to get it even through the corners, Shannon.
Mike, after qualifying 5th yesterday, Dale Earnhardt Jr. came to the garage. He was so happy with the car, said that his crew did an awesome job setting it up. Well, it's been a very busy day. In first practice, he said the car was terrible. He asked his team, what did you do to this car? It drives completely different. They certainly have gone to work on that car. He's getting a little bit happier now. Last time they brought it into the garage, they made a track bar adjustment. Junior saying just a little bit tighter right now. But guys, I want to ask you, how much of the change, because we heard a couple drivers say that the car is very different today than it was yesterday. Could that be the car, the heat, the track? What do you guys think?
Well, I mean, a lot has changed since yesterday. Obviously, the heat and the track. I mean, there's a lot of things that how much of this track does this change in terms of temperature and heat?
Well, it definitely will change with the temperature. There's no doubt that the heat has a lot to do with it. Yeah, a lot has to do with you go to taking tape off the front of the car from qualifying type runs. Even yesterday, running in practice runs, you've got more rubber down. You had a truck race last night, so a lot of things change about this racetrack, and it will continue to change as we go through the day.
And another thing that changes is the setup for qualifying. Your qualifying setups are quite different than your race setups, and you can do things just to run a couple of laps that you can't do when you're trying to run a long run and run a race. So that's one thing that changes as well as the racetrack.
Here's a driver that hopes nothing has changed since April. Mark Martin was just that good when this race back in the spring, where he led 68 laps and ran a little shy on fuel toward the end there and had to come in and pit, but he had the car to beat in the last 100 laps.
He really did have the car to beat, and I expect him to do that again. I mean, he's right there in second spot in happy hour. So I guess he's proven now that he's still going to be that guy.
Yeah, you can see him power sliding that baby out of turn 4 there, so he's up on the wheel already here in the final practice.
Mark is very sentimental about his time with DEI. This is his last race with DEI, and he said, these guys were really, really good about it. Let me come over here, and he would love to be able to give Teresa Earnhardt and all the folks at DEI, Tony Gibson, the crew chief, a win before he leaves, and this is his last chance. And here's the 16 car in the garage. Now, we saw him in qualifying yesterday. Greg Biffle, he rubbed it. He rubbed the wall in the same spot 2 laps in a row.
This is his first lap coming off turn 2, and he gets just a little bit wide, catches the ball. He says, okay, let's try it again. This is the second lap. Mike.
And guys, as you mentioned, most of the damage that you're looking at on the right side of the 16 happened yesterday during qualifying, but I've been told today hasn't been much better. They have slapped the wall at least 2 more times today, but not quite as hard as what they encountered yesterday.
Hey, Mike, Greg Biffle drove my race car for a few races his rookie season before he actually started driving for Roush, and it came back looking just like that every single race.
And where did it finish?
Oh, he always had the thing going forward, I can tell you that.
Well, that's all that matters, isn't it?
You got to love a guy like that, though.
I
You know he's got to get every inch he can get out of that racetrack.
That's right, man. I'm telling you, this guy drives hard. He doesn't leave anything out there.
Might be appropriate they got the American Red Cross sponsorship on the car, because he is beating and banging the wall here every time he's gone out. But, I talked to him yesterday in the garage here. He said, if I can just hang close here at Phoenix, which has not been a good track for him, and get it to Homestead, I've got a great shot where he's a 3-time winner. Well, we wonder how these cars can hit like this and take this kind of beating. Why are they so durable? Well, we got a guy that can tell us. Let's go down to our ESPN Tech Center and Tim Brewer.
Thanks, Doc. What we got in here, folks, this is the foam that's in the side of the car. The reason we have the foam in there is to absorb the impact. But still yet, this is the same stuff. It's Tegris that the splitter's made out of. We put it between the roll bar and the foam itself, and what that does, if you on impact, if you didn't have the Tegris in there, it would basically come between the roll cage. It wouldn't absorb near as much of the energy. But with the Tegris in there, it keeps the configuration of the body right out next to the bars and holds it in place. That's the reason these things are almost bulletproof.
And I'll bet you Tim knows what they used before they had that foam. What was the old-fashioned remedy they used between the sheet metal and the roll bar?
We used to put 2x4s out there, didn't we?
Yeah, a lot of those guys used 2x4s. Petrie, he used to have a pine tree in the side of his.
That's right. And you thought this was new technology, didn't you?
Jamie McMurray backing up his best finish of the year last week at Texas as his 3rd, but his best start of the year. This Sunday he will start on the outside of row 1.
Somebody's lit a fire under this guy lately. He's just been, everywhere we go, he's been one of the cars to beat.
McMurray excited about what's going to happen for him, not only for the remainder of this year, but for next year. He'll make a bit of a change here. Donnie Wingo will come over and become crew chief. Larry Carter, his current crew chief going to Yates Racing, will become the crew chief for Paul Menard. Now, later today in our NASCAR Nationwide race, he will be our in-race reporter. If you'd like to ask him a question, go on to ESPN.com, keyword Ask the Driver, and pose a question. Maybe we'll pick your question to ask Jamie McMurray later today.
I always looked at it from the standpoint, whatever you've been doing to get you there, you better keep doing.
You definitely have a target on you. There's no question about it, and everybody's shooting for you. I think there's much less pressure on the guy who's in second place as long as he knows he has a chance to get there.
Last 2 times we have come to this 1-mile D-shaped oval in the desert, Jimmy Johnson has been the last man standing. Can he hang on? Points margin down to 106 points with just this race and one more at Homestead, Miami to come. You know, jobs are just what you make of them, and when you're given a job in life, you need to be able to do it with zest. Look at this guy outside directing traffic. He's loving life, isn't he?
He's having a good time out there.
Been doing that since 8 o'clock this morning.
Here we go. Which way are we going? Yeah, that way. Here we go.
We need him down on the end of pit road.
That's right.
He's loving it, I tell you what. Here's the 20 car. Tony Stewart, former winner here at Phoenix, actually made a name for himself back years ago when he came here in 1993 to run a USAC midget car. Qualified second to Davey Hamilton, and he ran second that day to an accomplished open-wheel driver by the name of Mike Bliss, and that's what caught everyone's attention, and they put him in an IRL car where he became a champion and then moved since then to NASCAR, where he has now won 2 Cup titles.
Yeah, he's made a pretty good name for himself since. I can tell you that. This guy's a great race car driver. See that smoke coming out of this? Another Gibbs car. It goes through the corner, just lays down a smoke screen.
This car looks like it's handling pretty good. See him get down in. There's that smoke. We've been thinking that's a splitter for a long time, but that has nothing to do with that. It's just coming out the pipes.
Well, next week
looks pretty good entering the corner.
Next week's going to mark the end of a little bit of an era as far as driver-crew chief relationships are concerned.
Sure is.
This Tony Stewart's been with Greg Zipadelli for a lot of years now, and this is the longest-running relationship that's going to come to an end.
11 years and 2 Cup titles, so much success. And now it's going to be over. And, of course, he's going to be moving on to starting his own team. Got to wonder, there's Greg Zipadelli. What a job he has done, and what a combination these two have been.
They really have been. They were good right off the bat. I mean, as soon as Zippy came to the Cup level as a crew chief, and this is who he started with, Tony Stewart, he's always had a lot of success, and this has been a great relationship.
Yeah, that's all either one of them is known in this series and working together, and it's nice, and that pretty much exceeds. We joke around sometimes saying about 7 years is about the max for a driver and crew chief relationship to work really well, and if you go back over the years, that's about it, and these guys have been together 11 years and had a lot of success.
Couple of cars here with the 7 on it. Here's the Robbie Gordon car. Trying to get dialed in the final practice. He had a tough weekend at Texas last week. Lost his primary car in happy hour. He had a tire, he cut a tire and had to go to a backup car and struggled with it on race day.
He did. He's up in 21st in this last practice session, though. The car's looking pretty good.
He likes the desert.
Yeah, he's used to that.
That's usually the off-road stuff. How about Allmendinger right here? He's chasing down Reed Sorensen, who's going to be driving this 10 car next year. Allmendinger's going to give him a good look at it right here coming off the corner. Yep, that's it. That's my car going by.
Yeah. Reed decides to come on the pit road, and Allmendinger doing a heck of a job. There's Reed coming in. 2 more races with the Ganassi Sabatas team.
It's like Reed made a late decision to come down pit road and had to hit the binders right here. Watch this. You can see that left front tire start smoking. You'll see a lot of this if they make green flag pit stops tomorrow, where they have to really get on the brakes and try to get down to pit road speed right there at that line where you see that cone.
44 car David Rudeman, who ran so well at Texas, thought he would get his first top 5, ended up getting another top 10.
A great qualifying effort yesterday. David qualified in the 4th spot.
He's only 38th on the happy hour speed chart right now, so don't know what he was struggling with or whether maybe he just can't make that one fast lap.
Check in down in the garage area where Shannon is caught up with Dale Earnhardt Jr.
Dale Earnhardt Jr. currently running 23rd. Junior, after qualifying yesterday, you were so happy with the car, listening to your radio during first practice. Little bit of a struggle. How is the car now, and what are you looking for in this practice?
We're not struggling. We're real happy still. Pretty happy. Look out.
What are you guys looking for in this practice exactly?
We don't really want to look for much. I mean, the car's really good off the trailer, so I'm just trying to keep that same feeling. I think we got the car really dialed in.
You've had so much success here at Phoenix, 2 wins. What's the key to getting around this track so quickly?
A good race car, good crew chief, real good pit stops. But you've got to handle really good, you know, handling speed here.
And of course, we've seen Dale Earnhardt Jr. have success in all of those areas he just said this season. Mike?
Well, Jimmie Johnson has been so good this weekend that it's remarkable to note that he's 16th on the speed chart in this practice. Quite a fall off from the first practice when he was 3rd. He was complaining in that first practice that the car was lacking a little bit of rear grip. They went to work on that car, tried to correct it. Well, so far during this practice, his comments have been, it's been tight. They slapped on a new set of sticker tires last time they went out. Chad asked him how the car reacted to that. He said it helped, but only a little bit. It was temporary, and then the car got tight again. So in typical 48 team fashion, they went to work on the car and really didn't tell too many people what they were going to do. They said put in setup number 3, hoping that brings the 48 car back to life and shows the promise it did earlier this morning, guys.
There are a lot of tracks, Mike, where people talk about the pole being a blessing, but this is not one of them. If anything, people talk about how the pole where Jimmie Johnson will start on Sunday is a bit of a curse. Take a look at the last 2 pole sitters here. Last November, Carl Edwards, and this spring, Ryan Newman, both blew engines and finished 42nd and 43rd. And others who were quick in qualifying have struggled here as well. Boy, if Jimmie Johnson has trouble like that, it's going to make Homestead really exciting. Back in a moment. High above Phoenix International Raceway aerial coverage brought to you by our good friends at Goodyear. Get there on Silent Armor technology with the strength of Kevlar for toughness and a comfortable ride. Take you from high above to inside the car here. There is Carl Edwards, and look who's visiting there in the garage area with Carl.
You think he's asking for a setup?
Asking him, yeah, about that fuel mileage last week. How'd you do that exactly? Uh-oh, now Carl's going to explain to him a little bit with his hands. You know, if you ever tied a driver's hands up, he wouldn't be able to say a word. Not a word.
And if they did, you wouldn't know what they were saying.
That's right. Couldn't understand it.
While these guys discuss, we'll check in with Jimmy's teammate, Jeff Gordon, on the racetrack, who was our pole sitter last week at Texas and equaled his best finish of the year, 2nd.
This has been a really good racetrack for Jeff Gordon over the years. Just think of Jeff. Every time you think of this place, you think he's got a chance to win. Whether he does or not, you just feel like that he's going to have that opportunity.
You can say that about a lot of racetracks.
Yeah, you can. Gordon. Yeah, that's exactly right.
Same car he led a ton of laps with at Martinsville back just a few races ago. Finished 4th there. Mike?
Well, guys, remember last week, wasn't all that long ago, Jeff Gordon almost stole the victory in Texas based upon fuel mileage? Well, looks like they're trying to play that game again, at least preparing themselves for it. Remember back in the spring, it did come down to fuel mileage. Well, this team has really been working on fuel runs, making some long runs. That's what they did this morning. That's what they've worked on a little bit here, just trying to see how far they can go on one fuel load.
Mike, we were talking last night going back to the hotel, and Andy brought it up, said, I bet you after what happened here in the spring and what happened in Texas, a lot of teams are going to start focusing on just that.
Yeah, you're not going to just see 1 or 2 teams trying that now. That's what happens. You see one guy or one team do something like we saw that 99 team do last week, and this garage area is pretty resourceful. They're going to go to work and try to figure out how to do the same thing. See them changing the left side tires. They're going to put a little bit of fuel in here right now. They're measuring it. That little hose has a gauge on the end of it. You can see right there, and it'll tell them just how much fuel they're putting in the car. They're probably, if you see them putting sticker tires on the left side, probably going to go out there with new tires and see how the car handles. But this fuel mileage thing is getting ready to be a big factor in how these races are run and won.
I love what you said. We could get to a point where we have so many guys trying to do it. They're all slowing down by 2 seconds and coasting by.
Trying to race each other 2 seconds off the pace. Yeah, you saw how much Carl Edwards slowed down. What if there was 3 or 4 guys trying to do that?
Back on the racetrack, here's the 07, Clint Boyer. Will race later today here. He is the points leader for the NASCAR Nationwide Series. Behind him, the 88 car. You heard from Dale Earnhardt Jr., 2-time winner here at Phoenix, and led a bunch of laps here back in the spring. In fact, led 87 laps.
Yeah, and it sounded like he was very happy with his car, and he knows what it takes to have a car that's capable of winning here. So that's good news for junior fans.
07, Clint Boyer. And we mentioned that coming up later today, he will try to hold on to what is an ever-shrinking lead in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. His points lead now only 91 points over Carl Edwards. So Carl trying to move in both series. This is a pretty good track in the past. In fact, Clint's won here in the Nationwide car, won in the spring of 2007. Talk about former winners. The 17 car, Matt Kenseth, won here in 2002.
We can sure use another one. They've had a decent year, but he just needs to get in victory lane. This would be a good spot or a good place to see that.
See Junior already down on using the apron there with his left side tires. You'll see a lot of that happening, especially after guys get laps on their tires, getting in there trying to make the car turn and get around the bottom of the racetrack. And you can actually make the car de-wedge right there by getting the left side tires down there, getting a good run off the corner.
He is way down there, and you see Matt Kenseth just let him go. And probably, do you do that sometimes in practice just to see where a guy might be beating you?
Yeah, exactly. I would think that's what Matt Kenseth is doing right there, to see, what is Junior doing. He saw him come up and catch him quickly, so let's see how he's doing that. And Junior's using again a lot of that apron, so he probably has his car just a little bit on the tight side, because that'll really free your car up. But if you've got that little bit of tightness, you can get down there and get that drive off right there. You can really launch the car off the corner, make up some really good time, and it's a good place to get down and pass.
Really kind of weird. Looks like he's coming in the pits. He gets all the way down the apron.
Here's a guy who is making his 24th and final start of the season. Mark Martin looks like he is done for the day. He's climbed out talking to Tony Gibson. And obviously these guys are pretty pleased, and they should be, because if you look at the 5-lap averages in this final session, that guy, Mark Martin, at the top of the speed charts. Denny Hamlin right there, and his Joe Gibbs teammate Tony Stewart as well. Back with more in just a moment. NASCAR Sprint Cup Happy Hour continuing here at Phoenix International Raceway. We showed you a moment ago one of the drivers at the top of the 5-lap average speed chart. 5 hours to long race is Mark Martin, and you understand why he is so good here. Look at the history. 23 starts. He leads all drivers in terms of top 5 and top 10 finishes. And our Shannon Spake is with him.
Down here with Mark Martin right now, who is very fast on the speed charts, and you had a very fast car when you were here last time, led 68 laps here at Phoenix. How does this car compare to the one you had in the spring?
Well, it's pretty good right now. We're finished with practice. We feel real good about it. Tony Gibson and the U.S. Army team, they've given me great stuff all year, but it seems to be really special here. We started practice today, and the car wasn't, it just didn't have quite what it needed. It was good, but it wasn't that good. And Tony came up with some ideas, and we implemented them in the car, and we found some stuff that I think that elevated the car just a little bit. And I really believe it's a contender.
Now, you've been racing at this track for a long time, and it's fitting as the sun is coming into our eyes. We heard a lot of drivers talking yesterday in qualifying about that sun distracting them, not allowing them to hit the lines. How much of a factor is the sun here at Phoenix?
Well, it is, and it is some other places too for qualifying and especially qualifying. But, that's part of it. And you get a good draw and you get a bad draw, and you've always got an excuse. If I can't find one, I'll just say it's me. So, it's tough. The sun lands, pretty low toward the end of the day, and it's hard to see turn one. But you know what? It's the same for everybody that goes into turn one. So it's not, you know, it's something to talk about, but it's not that big a deal.
We were just talking about how much fun you've had this season, your last race of the season, getting ready to gear up for next year. What is this weekend like for you? Last time with DEI, last weekend as a free man without running a full-time season.
It is. I just want to say to Max, you know, and John Story and Max Siegel and all the management team there at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated, that they've done an incredible job. They put super quality race cars on the racetrack, and I want to thank each and every individual that works at DEI. They're so loyal, you know, stood through turmoil, and they put great race cars on the racetrack, and I give them a lot of credit for you know, me getting the offer from Rick Hendrick. If they hadn't put me in such great race cars, he wouldn't have had anything to do with me. So thank you, everyone at Dale Earnhardt Incorporated.
And of course, Doc, you heard Mark Martin say this could be the weekend, still looking for his first win this year.
Last win came in 2005 at Kansas, some 89 races ago. Here's his teammate, Paul Menard. Paul's had a pretty good second half of the season for the DEI bunch.
He's won a race here. He won it in like the Southwest Tour Series. That's what kind of opened my eyes to him when I put him in a Busch car at the time, Nationwide Series car. So he knows how to get around this track pretty well. Beat Ken Schrader to do it, so
that's saying something.
Yeah.
See Carl Edwards right behind him. Carl's 12th on the board right now. More concerned, not as much with that speed as how his car is after 5, 10, 12 laps. He's been out there. He's got 45 laps on the racetrack in this session.
DJ, you were the first driver to ever do double duty and run the what is now the Nationwide Series and the Cup Series at the same time. What do you think Carl's thinking about coming down the stretch? He's trying to narrow the gap in 2 different series and has a shot at winning both championships.
I think that's what's so impressive is, you know, he has strong enough mind to realize that, you know, what he's after and how to get it done, and the 2 cars are so totally different, and I think that's what's so impressive, that, you know, Carl's able to stay focused on both of them and just doing a tremendous job, sitting second in the points in both series with the opportunity to win both of the series. So it's just amazing. I mean, we've talked about him physically, but mentally he has to be extremely strong too, in the fact that you have to stay so focused on what you're doing and know which race car you're in, basically, and who you're talking to make changes.
Look at the gains he's made in the Cup Series. He's gained 92 points the last 2 races, 105 in the Nationwide Series. That race, by the way, coming up next year from Phoenix, and he could move in a little more. And Mike, he's got to be pretty pumped about what they've been able to do.
Yeah, they're pretty stout right now, feeling pretty good about the balance of the race car. We mentioned at the beginning of the practice that was going to be the focus, but I want to comment on something DJ said about Carl's focus on the 2 cars, the Nationwide Series car and the Cup Series car. Well, there's another car he's focused on too. That's the one that has the garage stall right next to him. That's the 48 of Jimmy Johnson, the guy he's trying to chase. Well, he came over the radio not too long ago, and he asked his crew chief something interesting. He wanted to know exactly what line Jimmy Johnson has been running. Bob Osborne's response was, "You are running identical lines." They want to be mirror images, at least so far during practice, but when the checkered flag flies on Sunday, they want to be way ahead of the 48, of course.
Well, Jimmy Johnson has won the last 2 in a row here, so everyone wants to imitate what Jimmy has done at this racetrack. He has been so good at Phoenix International Raceway, and good enough yesterday in qualifying to put this car on the pole. We invite you to join us for coverage of stop number 9 in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup here at Phoenix International Raceway, 3 o'clock Eastern time on Sunday, beginning with NASCAR Countdown. Alan Bestick, Brad Doherty, and Rusty Ross will set the stage, and then Jimmy Johnson will lead him down. Carl Edwards starts way back in 15th spot. This one should be fun to watch. Join us tomorrow at 3 Eastern time. Back in just a moment. NASCAR Sprint Cup Series final practice at Phoenix International Raceway. Right now, Denny Hamlin atop the speed charts. Mark Martin second quickest. He's already in the garage area, having called it a session. Others on the track that are running pretty well. The 29 car of Kevin Harvick is 7th overall. Kevin, one of 2 drivers pulling off triple duty this weekend. trying to run the NASCAR Nationwide race coming up next, where he will start 4th, of course, in the Cup race on Sunday. And last night here, ran in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series event. Kevin Harvick had been a 2-time winner here in the NASCAR Craftsman Trucks. Decided to jump in his own truck and try to make it 3 wins at Phoenix, and indeed that's exactly what he did. What a great performance for Harvick, who won the race. By the way, Kyle Busch finished 2nd. Harvick has 2 wins here in the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series, 3 in the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, and 1 in the NASCAR Nationwide Series. So Shannon, he's pretty darn good at this racetrack.
Kevin Harvick feeling good about this car too right now, Doc. He's really good in 1 and 2 is what he's telling his team. They have had a pretty eventful day so far. They had to bleed the brakes in between the 2 practice sessions, thought they might have some air in that brake line. And currently the biggest problem that they've had in this practice session is the fact that they had to change their battery. Battery went dead, caused the car to misfire. They thought they were having some other issues, but of course it was just the battery. They fixed it up, and you can see Kevin Harvick's pretty high on that speed chart right now.
Well, you just don't like to have electrical problems anytime, and having to change the battery, it makes me a little nervous, wondering what caused that.
Yeah, you'd have to think they'd be looking elsewhere here this afternoon after practice is over to see if some changes they might have to make inside with any of the electrical system.
There's the 42 Juan Pablo Montoya, and end of an era, actually end of 22 years of sponsorship. Last time we will see Texaco Hamlin on the hood of a NASCAR Sprint Cup car in the near future. Look back at all the great drivers over the years, Davey Allison, Ernie Irvan. DJ, your first ride for Robert Yates was with that sponsor.
Yeah, sure was, in the 28 car. And it's going to be hard to imagine we'll come out next year and we'll be seeing that big Texaco star on the hood of a race car here in the Cup Series.
Juan Pablo currently 13th in the speed here in this final session. There's Ryan Newman in the 12 car. We'll talk about what he's going to be doing next year, driving the second Stewart-Haas Chevrolet with Tony Stewart as a teammate.
Yeah, Ryan's up in the 6th spot in this final practice. I think they're getting really close with naming his crew chief for next year. Of what I'm hearing, it's somebody pretty good. So I think he's pretty excited about that happening, and I believe they will let us all in on that next week.
Yeah, Tony, I believe, is going to make some announcements about people who are going to run the operation and who are going to be the crew chiefs when we get to Homestead.
I thought you were going to announce it right there.
No.
I was paying attention.
No. No. There's Elliott Sadler. He's coming into the pits. Elliott not running very good. He's back in 35th, and he's back there around about the same speed in the first practice session. He was telling me last night he's been fighting this car quite a bit yesterday during practice.
Rookie and a veteran here, 0-1 Regan Smith, who up until 2 weeks ago had led the rookie points for much of the season. And behind him is the 16 car, Greg Biffle. We'll see if Greg can minimize the scraping on the right side of his car. By the way, Bobby Labonte right behind that group in the 43 car.
Yeah, we've been watching these Gibbs cars, Tony Stewart especially. His car just smokes like crazy when they go in the corner. You can see Ken Schrader's right behind him. They both have a Gibbs package, but you see that smoke is really thick coming out of that 20 car. Doesn't seem to hurt him. Yeah, we'll try to find out exactly what that whole deal is all about. Maybe we can talk about it tomorrow.
You see them slowing down. The session's over here. So that's the end of these guys. They'll have to take the information that they've gathered here and make their best guess for tomorrow.
Denny Hamlin atop the speed charts in this session. Jimmy Johnson all the way back 16th quickest. Remember, he's on the pole here for Sunday. Back in a moment. Back at Phoenix, take a look at our starting grid here for Sunday. Jimmy Johnson on the pole, flanked by Jamie McMurray, his best qualifying effort of the year. Earnhardt Jr. inside of row 3.
Denny Hamlin starting up there. He's going to be a factor.
Guys, so hard to pass on this racetrack on Sunday. We keep talking about how important it is to get a good starting spot here and be up in the top 15 or so.
Yeah, it is a difficult racetrack to pass on. I mean, there's not a lot of room out there. Everybody kind of wants that same spot. We'll see some cars move up in 1 and 2, but the bottom groove is going to be the preferred line.
You know where the best spot to pass is, don't you?
Pit road?
Pit road. That's where most of the passes are going to happen.
Lots of action coming your way here on Sunday. Now, fans are always writing in and wanting to know, so what happens behind the scenes here on our ESPN and ABC coverage? Well, we thought we'd give you a little glimpse and take you behind the scenes of our pit studio and tech center.
As the green flag dropped on the 2008 NASCAR season, ESPN began their second year of NASCAR coverage from the most technologically advanced traveling studio ever used in sports television, the ESPN NASCAR Mobile Pit Studio.
Our ESPN Pit Studio overlooks the entire place, just outside Turn 2 in the backstretch, where we won't miss a single bump, bang, or spin all day long. Welcome inside.
The 78,000-pound mobile unit has the ability to sit 14 feet raised in the air and is equipped with features unlike any other mobile studio.
Instead of just a 12-foot run of glass, a single expanding trailer, and 3 talent, we wanted as many as 5 talent, a double expando, and a 30-foot run of glass, which to our knowledge has never been done before. We're lighting our talent with LED lights as opposed to conventional either fluorescent or incandescent lights. These lights give off almost no heat whatsoever.
It's the first time a studio has been lit entirely with LED lights. Both the 30-foot window and the lenses on each camera have polarizing filters, creating 2 different levels of light.
What that allows you to do is to set one level of light for your talent, which is comfortable and which makes them look good, and you control the background levels independently.
The studio is equipped with 3 robotic cameras running on one track mounted to the wall.
The folks at Telemetrics were enthusiastic about getting involved in it, but at a couple times I think they thought we were a little bit crazy with what we were trying to do.
In one full NASCAR season, the ESPN Pit Studio will travel to 26 different tracks over the course of 38 weekends, logging a total of 33,468 miles. Traveling that distance under such a tight schedule made it necessary for the studio to be as comfortable as possible.
My favorite moment this year was probably when young Justin Allgaier came into the booth. He was really nervous when he came in the door, but when he sat down, he composed himself. He gave us a great interview.
Probably not going to get much sleep tonight, but that's all right. I mean, when you got the adrenaline pumping, sleep is overrated. I mean, you can sleep.
You're a young guy. You couldn't ask for more than we have here, especially as nomadic as NASCAR is, going from place to place to place. To bring the same facility every week, it just helps us a ton.
Welcome to ESPN's NASCAR Tech Center.
So what has to happen to make the brakes last? For that, we go to our Chevy Cutaway car and find out from Tim Brewer. Tim?
Most important thing we can do at Martinsville is cool the brakes. We conduct air through the front of the car, through these ducts. We actually use fans to blow over here to try to keep the heat out of the brakes.
The Tech Center is an expando truck that travels with NASCAR and is actually a working television studio.
ESPN worked with marketing agency Jack Morton Worldwide to create a technical studio that would travel from track to track for 38 straight weekends.
We actually came up with these light panels that are very, very thin, so we could keep the profile of the light boxes very, very narrow.
Another cutting-edge feature of the Tech Center is a 3D touchscreen, giving fans a unique look into the inner workings of a car engine. The Tech Center was built to accommodate 2 full-scale cutaway cars.
There's not much room inside of this trailer, and we needed to get a car to completely spin around.
So we had to create these special platforms that actually the cars roll onto, and then they can actually be jacked up, and then they can come down and they can roll around.
In addition to the cutaway car, the Tech Center is equipped with enough car parts to fill an entire garage.
Tim Brewer, he wants to be able to set something up quickly, go live, and then move on to something else.
Now the brake pad, you're going to see this rotor glow because it's about 1,300 degrees. But over here, this is the weakest point of the system. It's the brake fluid.
It's sort of fascinating to be able to have something that you can actually do on the road, and it looks fantastic.
A lot of hard work by some very creative people to develop that Tech Center. And there's the pit studio where momentarily we'll be headed down there with Alan Beswick, Brad Doherty, and Rusty Wallace to bring you live countdown for the NASCAR Nationwide Series race, which is coming up next. Now, NASCAR Sprint Cup Happy Hour is history. Denny Hamlin was quick you know, in the happy hour, guys, what about what we're going to see tomorrow? The determining factor on this race back in April was fuel mileage. What about track position? What about what happens on pit road?
Yeah, we could see a fuel mileage race tomorrow, but I think it's really going to come down to who has the best handling race cars. And for the 2-point leaders, it's a very critical race for each one of those. Carl Edwards needs to try to make up some points, and Jimmy Johnson trying to protect that lead.
Yeah, Jimmy's going to try to get out there and lead as many laps as he can, make those guys chasing, make them try to make a mistake and see what they can do. But we could see something that we haven't seen, and that's a non-chase driver win tomorrow, because Mark Martin feels pretty good about his race car.
Mark Martin pretty good. Dale Earnhardt Jr. also very confident. He had a great car here in the spring, starts in the top 5, and could be a factor here on Sunday. A lot of work going on down in the NASCAR Sprint Cup garage, but we are getting set to go do NASCAR Nationwide Series action. In this garage, everyone's talking about what's going to happen on Sunday, but also what's happening with that narrowing points race. Only 106 points separating Carl Edwards from Jimmy Johnson. And folks, you think that's close? Well, in the NASCAR Nationwide Series, Carl Edwards is just 91 points away from Clint Boyer, and it could get closer here momentarily. So let's go over to our pit studio and Alan Bestwick.